Breaking tonight, Donald Trump's first big win in his bid to return to the White House.
It doesn't matter what they throw at him, he keeps going.
Republicans in Iowa vote on who they want on the presidential ticket. Why the race for second place is so important. Extreme cold strains the power grid and triggers emergency alerts in Alberta.
Turned the TV off and we actually sat and talked to each other.
And how one man tracked his stolen SUV all the way from Toronto to Dubai.
They think I'm sort of certifiably crazy, which is fair, but I want my truck back.
Why he still wasn't able to get it back.
Is quite common. It's alarmingly common.
This is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. We begin with breaking news. Donald Trump is projected to win the Iowa caucuses, the first major test in the race for the White House.
We want to thank the great people of Iowa. Thank you. We love you all.
Donald Trump's victory tonight is a crucial step towards the Republican nomination. And then, of course, there's the race for second place. Both Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley want to be seen as the one true Trump alternative. Katie Simpson is in Des Moines tonight. So, Katie, it really didn't take long for the American networks to call it for Trump.
Within minutes of those first results coming in from caucuses, Adrian, Donald Trump was projected as the winner of this state. It went exactly as expected. It was never if Donald Trump was going to win Iowa. It was always a matter of how large his margin of victory would be. The race for second is far more competitive. Heading into tonight, Nikki Haley had secured that second place spot, with Ron DeSantis trying to catch up.
The final push to the finish looking far less frantic than usual. Ron DeSantis' team plugs away inside his suburban Des Moines headquarters. With support for the Florida governor sliding, enthusiasm seemed to wane. Iowa is all about Donald Trump, dominating polls for months, his supporters willing to endure icy roads and frigid temperatures to pledge their support.
He's got a personality that you just can't shut off. It doesn't matter what they throw at him, he keeps going. I mean, anybody else, if I had 90-some lawsuits against me, I would probably be crying in bed.
It's a disappointing reality for Republicans against Trump, including long-shot candidate, former Arkansas Governor Asa Hutchinson.
Donald Trump has said that he's going to be autocratic, that he's going to ignore the other institutions of our democracy, and that he's going to also put into place people that will follow his narrow agenda.
Hutchinson fears democracy in this country is at risk with Trump. But in a long-shot kind of way, he still hopes Republican voters will choose another path.
I want Canadians to understand that sometimes we have a very sloppy process in electing our presidents, but it generally works.
Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley is trying to establish herself as the credible Trump alternative. A strong second-place showing in Iowa would help.
We can't continue to be a country in disarray with the world on fire. And we can't do that with 4 more years of chaos.
And that leaves Ron DeSantis in an even weaker position, as it remains unclear if this race is big enough for 2 alternatives to Trump.
I'm going to be fighting for you for the next 8 years, and we're going to turn this country around. Now's the time to do it.
So, Katie, given what's unfolded tonight, what does this change or tell us about what could happen leading up to the next primary?
It says DeSantis and Haley both have a lot of work to do if they're going to secure that position as the clear alternative to Trump. And they're also both going to be looking forward to the next state, which is New Hampshire. They don't have to answer any difficult questions right now about whether it's time to pack in those campaigns. They'll be looking for a breakout moment in New Hampshire as a way to try and stop Donald Trump from running away with this contest.
All right, Katie Simpson in Des Moines, Iowa. So there's a lot at stake for all 3 frontrunners tonight. But is Iowa just a glimpse of things to come for Trump, or could there be some surprises ahead? Our political panel looks at that in about half an hour. The brutal cold Katie spoke of isn't just in Iowa. Nearly half of this country is in the grips of a deep freeze tonight. Weather warnings are still in place for much of the prairies, and that Arctic air has now settled into eastern Canada, with temperatures plummeting in parts of Ontario and Quebec. The west and east coasts are expected to warm up a little bit ahead of what could be messy, wintry weather in the coming days. Now, Albertans are still being asked to keep an eye on their electricity use after that bitter cold pushed the power grid to the brink this weekend. Just this morning, residents were told again to reduce their energy use to avoid blackouts for the fourth time in as many days. Aaron Collins now with how many responded.
Caught in a brutal cold snap, Alberta saw power use spike over the weekend, pushing the province's grid to the brink.
My wife's phone went crazy.
An unprecedented use of the province's emergency alert system, urging people to conserve power.
Turned the TV off and we actually sat and talked to each other for about an hour or two.
Albertans responded, helping to keep the lights on.
The response was phenomenal. Within seconds, we saw power demand on the system drop by 100 megawatts.
The cold weather just one factor contributing to the stress on Alberta's grid. 2 natural gas power plants offline and little wind adding to the problem. Still, the close call, a chance to take a shot at Ottawa's climate plan. Conservatives panning the push for more reliance on renewable energy in Canada.
It wasn't ideological that the sun goes down at 4:55 before the peak. It wasn't ideological that the wind wasn't blowing or it was minus 30 and they couldn't turn. It was just a reality of a northern climate. So we need natural gas.
But the federal environment minister says plans to green Canada's grid by 2035 would never put the province in a situation where they do not have reliable electricity. And this electricity expert agrees more renewables had little to do with Alberta's power shortage.
You can't blame renewable energy for a lack of backup power, because no one in their right mind assumes that renewable energy is going to give you backup power.
Warmer weather means another electricity alert is unlikely anytime soon. More natural gas generation expected to come online later this year will help too. Of course, more electricity from natural gas means more emissions. It's a tough nut to crack for Canada's energy capital as it's forced to deal with a warming planet, even on the coldest of days. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
In neighboring Saskatchewan, a long-awaited and long-dreaded coroner's inquest is now underway. It will focus on the mass stabbings at James Smith Cree Nation back in 2022. Sam Sampson is at the inquest where the difficult testimony is already underway.
The weight of all of this is a lot to deal with. That's what this space is for. Inside, it's no place for cameras, but for a sacred fire to burn and help members of the James Smith Cree Nation.
Some of them are carrying grief. Some of them are angry. Some of them, they're kind of lost right now. But we have the fire there for a reason for them, to help them.
On September 4th, 2022, RCMP say Miles Sanderson stabbed 11 people to death and injured 17 others, all but one from his home community of James Smith Cree Nation. After a 3-day manhunt, Sanderson was arrested on the side of a Saskatchewan highway. He died shortly after in RCMP custody. Now, every known detail of what happened will play out here over the next 2.5 weeks. 31 witnesses, including RCMP officers and Sanderson's former partner, will paint a detailed picture of the killings for a jury some said they couldn't be part of because they mentally couldn't handle the content or they were related to some of the victims. Officials warned this will be a very difficult few weeks for everyone.
There's a fair mix of apprehension, nervousness, concerns regarding re-traumatization and things like that. So it's natural. I think everyone's a bit nervous just to see how this starts because it's such a unique and unknown process.
By the end of this inquest, the jury is expected to come up with recommendations to prevent another tragedy. Instead of listening to horrific details of his family members' deaths, Randy Burns will be out here through the inquest, keeping the fire and space for others going.
Sometimes people don't know how to cry, and they put tobacco down there to talk for them.
So, Sam, the first witness has already started to testify. What can you tell us about it?
Yes, so the first witness is a staff sergeant from the RCMP, and he started to reveal the RCMP's entire investigation. And we got through the days leading up to the stabbings today. Now, we know that Miles killed his brother Damien first, but before that, the brothers were together on the First Nation. They were seen drinking together, they assaulted a few people. Today, we heard for the first time text messages from those brothers to their partners, as well as other community members. And these are messages of saying goodbye. Tell my kids I love them, this is the last time you'll see me. And so tomorrow, the RCMP staff sergeant will continue his presentation, and then he'll face questions from the jury, the lawyers, and family members.
It's all so hard. All right, Sam Sampson in Saskatchewan. Turning now to the Middle East, and chilling new video from Hamas that is adding to the torment tonight for families of Israeli hostages. Margaret Evans now on what it shows, Israel's response, and the worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
Hamas released a video of the 3 Israeli hostages on Sunday, Noah Argamani, Yossi Sharabi, and Itai Svirsky, followed now by another video, purportedly showing the bodies of the 2 men. Argamani, who was filmed as she was taken hostage from a music festival in Israel on October 7th, appears under duress in the video, saying the men were killed by Israeli airstrikes. Israel denies it, and CBC News can't verify when or where the video was taken. In Tel Aviv last fall, we met Yossi Sharabi's brother, Sharon. His other brother, Eli, also taken hostage. Their images kept close.
My family is broken, shattered. Now we are very worried.
That was then. Israeli officials believe there are still more than 100 hostages in Gaza. Some of their families are angry with the Israeli government for not pushing harder for negotiations. But Israel's defense minister, Yoav Gallant, says the military can't let up now. If we stop the military pressure, he says, we will seal their fate to stay in Gaza because Hamas will not be motivated to talk to us. Inside Gaza, these images were released on social media Sunday, showing desperate Palestinians. The World Food Programme warning of hunger at crisis levels.
Everyone in Gaza is hungry. There are people starving in areas, and we are not able to give basic food for.
Yusuf Abu Ishaq says his family fled their house when it was bombed. We need food, bread, and blankets, he says. It's winter. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has repeated his calls for an immediate ceasefire.
Nothing can justify the collective punishment of the Palestinian people. The humanitarian situation in Gaza is beyond words. Nowhere and no one is safe.
Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says the number of Palestinians killed since the war began has now surpassed 24,000. Margaret Evans, CBC News, London.
And Israeli police say an elderly woman is dead, at least 17 others injured after an attack north of Tel Aviv. Officials say 2 people used stolen vehicles to drive into pedestrians at several locations in the city of Ra'anana. Israeli police say 2 Palestinians who lived in the occupied West Bank have now been arrested. And still in the region, Houthi rebels fired a missile and struck a U.S.-owned container ship in the Gulf of Aden. Officials say there were no injuries or significant damage. For months, Houthi militants have attacked ships in the waters around Yemen in response to Israel's war in Gaza. And tonight, they're warning they have no plans to stop. U.S. and British forces responded last week with dozens of strikes. Canada provided planning support. There is some good news in Iceland tonight, where it appears the lava flow is easing after a volcanic eruption over the weekend. As Mira Baines shows us, it's the second time in less than a month that residents have been forced to flee this area.
There's little people can do but watch as lava swallowed their homes. John Gotchi Dagbjertsen was one of about 4,000 people forced out Saturday, watching footage from afar.
This is big. This is serious. It's basically as bad as can possibly get.
although it might get even worse.
His community was evacuated for the third time after a series of earthquakes cracked open the Earth's crust, creating fissures between the town and a small mountain to the north. Over the weekend, fountains of molten rock and lava spewed from a nearby volcano, spilling into the community.
I think people are in shock.
Alla Haldort's daughter lives 30 kilometers south of Grindavik.
They're really hurting. It's difficult to see their own homes. You know, they're watching it in the news. Their house is going in flames.
Iceland's prime minister explained earlier efforts to use barriers to redirect the flow of lava were helping until the new fissure opened up.
Already, several houses have gone under lava, so it's a very serious situation.
The lava flow is decreasing, but experts warn activity remains unpredictable.
This fissure opened up, under the berm that they built to try to divert the lava, and it popped up and flowed out and destroyed these buildings.
Doug Beertson hopes to get back to the home he was born in, but is prepared for the worst.
It's a tough thought to think that this town might be over, and I would have to start all over somewhere else. But if that's the case, then that's exactly what we'll do.
Volcanic eruptions in Iceland are not rare, happening about every 5 years. Until 3 years ago, this volcanic system near Grindavik had been dormant for 800 years. Mura Baines, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hundreds of civilian workers at military bases in Ontario and Quebec are now on strike over job security and wages.
These are some of the lowest paid federal public sector workers in the country. And we're saying that it's time for them to be treated with respect.
The workers walked off the job this morning at several bases, including in Kingston, Ottawa, and Montreal. They normally deliver support services such as food, recreation, financial planning. The union says they have been without a collective agreement since 2022. Former NDP leader Ed Broadbent will become the second leader of an opposition party to be given a state funeral. Broadbent, who led the federal NDP for 14 years, died last week at the age of 87. The Prime Minister announced a state funeral will be held on January 28th. Jack Layton, another NDP leader, was the first opposition leader to receive the honor back in 2011. As war rages on in Sudan, the federal government is helping some with family in Canada escape the conflict.
I was not ever in my worst nightmare expected Sudan to fall into that kind of violence.
Why some say the program shouldn't just be temporary. Next. Plus, the story of a stolen SUV tracked with an Airtag.
We have dinner, come back out, and the truck was gone.
How one man followed his vehicle all the way to Dubai. And later, an emotional return to the ice for his birthday.
I never thought I'd hear that ovation again in my life.
A former pro gets another chance more than 2 decades later. We're back in 2. Well, those are thousands of German farmers and their tractors bringing Berlin's city center to a standstill today. They are upset with the government's plan to phase out subsidies for diesel gas in farm vehicles. This caps off a week of protests and demonstrations right across Germany. Ottawa is opening a new immigration pathway for people caught in the conflict in Sudan. Those with family in Canada can apply starting next month. The program is temporary. And as Ithil Musa shows us, some say that is a problem.
For Wada Madani in Halifax, the war in Sudan has changed everything.
It shattered my life, to say the least. It made everything impossible. I was not ever in my worst nightmare expected Sudan to fall into that kind of violence.
Fighting erupted 9 months ago between Sudan's army and a paramilitary group known as the Rapid Support Forces. More than 7 million people were displaced within the country, and hundreds of thousands fled to neighboring African countries. Sudanese Canadian Wada Madani is now trying to bring her brother and his family to Canada with the federal government's new immigration pathway for people caught in the conflict.
They would never, ever leave Sudan if it is not for this.
The temporary immigration program opens on February 27th and will close 1 year later or when about 3,200 applications have been received. But Wada says there should be no cutoff.
I think that the government of Canada can do better than that.
When the fighting began in the capital, Khartoum, many traveled to Sudan's second-largest city of Wad Madani. But last month, hundreds of thousands of people were forced to flee yet again when paramilitary forces seized control.
And Madani is the link and the hub for all humanitarian missions. And all humanitarian missions now, they suspended their operation in Jazeera state. And even some relief items and others were looted.
Sudan's army chief has vowed to continue fighting the Rapid Support Forces, despite it agreeing to a recent ceasefire proposed by civilian groups.
It's vital for any kind of workable ceasefire that the two major protagonists actually come to the table and agree.
As the conflict and humanitarian crisis in Sudan continues, Canada's new immigration pathway will be the only hope of some to escape the bloodshed. Idil Musa, CBC News, Toronto.
There's concern tonight about preserving a traditional Métis language in Manitoba.
As it is right now, there's not that many fluent speakers that are still living.
The uncertainty around the future of a unique, immersive program. Plus, in the race for the White House, Republicans take an important first step. We break down what you need to know about the Iowa caucuses. And he tracked his stolen SUV all the way from Toronto to Dubai.
You know where your vehicle is. How frustrating is it when you realize there's nothing you can do?
The Toronto man on the trail of an international crime ring. The National breaks down the story shaping our world. Next. Boy, that looks cold. This was the scene earlier today at Highmark Stadium, home of the Buffalo Bills. Fans shoveling snow just to get into their seats for today's rescheduled NFL wild card playoff game between the Bills and the Pittsburgh Steelers. An intense winter storm yesterday forced that game to be postponed. The Bills won 31-17 today to advance in the postseason. There are concerns about the future of an endangered Métis language after a program aimed at protecting it was shuttered today. Karen Pauls paid a visit to the Michif Language House before it shut down.
They're speaking Michif, the traditional language of Métis people in Manitoba, using words and ideas from Cree and French, Ojibwe and English.
So we're doing a story. As we're going, we're telling a story, and plus I'm teaching them verbs.
This house has been the home of the Master Apprentice program for the last year and a half. Métis elders and students are paid to live and gather here, immersing themselves in the language. They're also taking remote university courses, learning how to teach it to others.
Baking, cooking, making soups, bannock. Everything and anything you would do in a day, we try to bring to the house.
This Michif Language House is the only one of its kind in the world. At least it used to be. Funding for the program was suddenly and unexpectedly cut. And just months away from graduating, they don't know if their tuition will be paid or if they'll be able to finish their courses.
Devastating because where do we go from here?
The federal government says it's investing more than $840 million into Indigenous language revitalization in 5 years. But the way projects are being funded is changing. The money now flowing directly to political organizations like the Manitoba Métis Federation. The MMF won't tell us why it's cutting funding to Map House, but says it's reevaluating all of its language programs. For the participants, there's uncertainty and concern for their futures and the survival of their language.
We're in a really critical position, not only with Michif, but all endangered languages globally.
Without speakers, we don't have the language. It's not going to live. We don't have time to wait.
For Michif, time is running out. Karen Pauls, CBC News, Brandon, Manitoba.
All right, so now is the moment to go deeper into the news shaping our world.
I want my truck back.
A Toronto man tracks his stolen SUV across the globe. But first,
it's great to see everybody.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Polls of Republicans show there's everybody else, and then there's him.
I've been indicted 4 times because I said the election was rigged.
But in Iowa tonight, a Trump victory declared as primary season begins. This is the breakdown. Oh, there's so much to talk about on a night like this. So we have assembled an expert team to help us out. Author and journalist Brian Stelter in New York, Atlanta Journal-Constitution Washington correspondent Tia Mitchell, who's in Des Moines, Iowa, and Washington Post Chief White House correspondent Tolu Olorunipa in Houston, Texas. So, Tia, it's only polite. You're the one there in the cold. It really didn't take long before the network started to declare Donald Trump as the winner. Does this track with what you've been hearing on the ground there in Iowa?
Yes, it absolutely tracks. The energy has been with Donald Trump. It's not just what the polling's been telling us for weeks, but on the ground, at caucus night, at all the events leading up to tonight, it just was very clear that the majority of Republican voters that were ready to caucus were ready to support former President Trump. And when I showed up to a caucus meeting tonight, it was very clear that most of the people in the room were going to vote for Donald Trump.
Okay, so Brian, I mean, the polls have been pointing towards this. Nobody's surprised, right? A Trump victory. But within what's happening this evening, what specifically have you found interesting, and what do those results potentially tell us about the rest of the United States?
Right, the Republican Party divide is still very real. The same divide that showed up in polls for many months, even for years, has now shown up in the votes. Donald Trump is getting about 50% of these voters who turned out in the cold in Iowa. He is not coming across as this impossible to beat force, but he is clearly the dominant figure in the Republican Party. I think the Biden campaign, the Biden White House looks at these results and sees a Republican Party that is split, but clearly is going in Trump's favor, even though there are many Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis fans out there. Right now, there's not enough for Trump to be able to be blocked. So it's going to be Trump and his autocratic rhetoric who is going to steamroll into New Hampshire and beyond. And this looks increasingly like a repeat of 2020. I think what it shows us is that the Republican voters who feel aggrieved, who feel a sense of loss of their country, who feel a sense of America being stolen from them, who believe America was great and that only Trump can make it great again, to use a 2016 slogan, they want to give him one more chance. But they are a fragile minority in an increasingly multicultural country. And so these primary results, these caucus results, they're going to shock a lot of people all around the world who are going to say, wow, Trump's coming back. I think we should just also acknowledge that there is a vast number of voters, a vast array of Americans who do not want to go down the path of extremism, but who have not had a chance to weigh in yet, because this is only the very first day of a very long election period, right?
So Brian mentioned the White House briefly there. You're the White House correspondent. You spend the most time there. What matters about this night in that White House today?
It matters that Donald Trump is seemingly running away with the Republican nomination, and the White House aides, the White House, the president's campaign aides have been gearing up for a Trump-Biden rematch for months now, and they actually would like to go head-to-head with Donald Trump because they think that lines up best for them in the general election. They think that even if Donald Trump is dominant in a primary, that he's not able to win over a lot of the crossover voters that he lost between 2016 and 2020, the voters that put Joe Biden into the White House. And some of those voters are Haley voters, voters who supported Haley in the caucus or maybe supporting Haley in the other primaries. You can expect a number of Biden aides to be looking at how they can win over those Haley voters who are not happy that Donald Trump is winning this primary, likely to win the Republican nomination. Are those voters up for grabs? I do think you'll see an appeal from Joe Biden to some of those voters who cannot pull the lever for Donald Trump, who are Republicans, who are independents, and a lot of those voters are going to be the ones who determine who wins in 2024, and you can expect them to be hearing from the Biden campaign and from the White House in terms of the messaging in the next several weeks, especially as we get closer to the nomination fight after the convention in the summer and we get into the general election. not only will Biden be trying to appeal to the Democratic voters, but he'll also be trying to appeal to middle of the road and some Republican voters saying you can't vote for Trump, you have to consider voting for the country and voting for Joe Biden.
So, Tia, just spelling off that for a moment, I guess it also serves Biden if the fight gets a bit nasty, between the other contenders. He wants there to be a fight, does he not?
Yeah, I think Biden is okay with letting this Republican primary play out. He's okay with letting the Republicans kind of go at it amongst each other because, quite frankly, when it becomes a one-on-one contest, that's going to put more pressure on Biden to ramp up his campaign schedule, ramp up his messaging, and a long general election is going to tire out, quite frankly, our oldest president that we've had in history. So I think he's okay with letting them duke it out a little bit longer. I think Trump is ready to pivot right now. One of the things is the messaging among the Republicans. More recently, we have seen them more willing to take Trump on. It was a little bit too little, too late for Iowa, but going into New Hampshire and South Carolina, as they get a little desperate, will we see this more? And could that be some of the messaging that, again, allows the Republicans to kind of damage Trump while Biden remains a little bit on the sidelines? We'll see.
And Brian, just, from the distance, a bit of a distance here in Canada, when we look at the Trump trials, right, people catch themselves sometimes saying, wait, which one is this one for? What is the next one about? It's right. Confusing, right? It's a bit processy. There in the United States, do those trials matter to the electorate, or is he so far ahead in the polls that it doesn't move opinions at all?
The trials matter a lot because Republican primary voters have appealed more to Trump. They've been more interested in Trump because of the trials. Some people who were on the fence then sided with Trump because they feel he's being persecuted by the federal government. Of course, there's not evidence that Joe Biden's pulling any strings here, trying to cause Trump to be indicted, trying to get him prosecuted. But certainly the Trump-based voters have held on to their candidate because for them, Trump is not just a candidate. He's a way of life. He's an identity. He's a religious figure. And we're seeing that play out once again. But I think it's important to recognize that only goes so far. Yes, Trump's floor is very high, but his ceiling's very low. It's very hard for him to appeal to more folks, to appeal to folks that are not already in his camp.
Right.
So thus the trials do matter, and they are going to matter for the foreseeable future because it's very likely that he will be found guilty. He's going to be convicted, and many Republican voters are going to support him regardless, but not all of them. The polling tie indicates about a third of Republican voters will not support Trump if he is convicted of a crime.
Oh, there's so much more to talk to you all about, including what's coming up in New Hampshire, but that's going to have to wait for another day. Brian, Tia, Toulouse, thanks very much. We appreciate it.
Thanks.
Coming up, he used Airtags to track his stolen vehicle halfway around the world, but police failed to stop the thieves.
It's organized crime, well-financed, highest level.
Thomas Daigle brings us a Toronto man's relentless pursuit to get his SUV back. That is next on The Breakdown.
We have dinner, come back out at 9:15, and the truck was gone.
Another vehicle, one of tens of thousands stolen in Canada every year.
It's alarmingly common.
This time, the owner has the tracking devices and the determination to expose an international crime in real time. Despite watching his SUV move through 5 cities on 3 continents, Thomas Daigle shows us this Toronto owner learned that a stolen vehicle can move a lot faster than police.
Nabbed from a Toronto driveway, how does a stolen SUV wind up all the way here? This one found in a used car lot on another continent.
We're not talking about just, vehicle theft. It's organized crime, well-financed, highest level.
How many pictures and documents do you have from this whole thing?
Honestly, we have dozens of screenshots.
Amazingly, the owner tracked his truck the whole way, compiling images, maps, and evidence, even hiring a private investigator, and not getting much help from police.
How surprised have people been when you show them this level of evidence and detail the whole way through?
Yeah, they think I'm sort of certifiably crazy, which is fair, but I want my truck back.
Last August 7th, a 2022 GMC Yukon XL like this one is parked in the driveway in this East Toronto neighborhood. The owner, Andrew, found the steering wheel bent with that lock still in place, a sign criminals had dropped in trying to steal it once, and they were about to return again.
We have dinner, come back out at 9:15, and the truck was gone.
What went through your mind?
Not again, because that was the second truck that had been stolen from our driveway.
You heard right, it's the second truck he's had stolen. We've agreed to conceal Andrew's full name and address. His family fears reprisals for fighting back against organized crime.
Luckily, in that Yukon, he had stashed 2 Apple Airtags, or tiny tracking devices. So he watched as it pinged in different locations across the Greater Toronto area and then stopped in a rail yard north of here.
The massive Canadian Pacific terminal in Vaughan handles about 1,800 containers each day. With cargo loaded onto trucks and trains, not every shipment gets a thorough verification, potentially giving organized crime a passageway to move stolen vehicles. This is where Andrew pinpointed his truck, the AirTag sending its location at the rail yard. So he called York Regional Police and wound up texting with an officer who drove right in. Police even sent him this picture, saying the SUV is definitely in one of those containers. It felt like a victory, finally.
I said, "Officer, you must be right there." He's like, "Well, here's the picture. This is what I'm looking at right now." I said, "Fantastic. You did it. Go get the truck." And he said, "I can't. You have to call the CP Rail Police. It's their jurisdiction."
And how helpful were they?
They were not.
And so off it went. His GMC Yukon agonizingly close, but moving further and further away. Pinging next on August 11th in a rail yard in Smiths Falls in eastern Ontario. Then 3 days later in Montreal. At one of Canada's largest shipping ports and what's become a major destination for exporting stolen cars. Again, Andrew says he contacted local police, but they were hardly helpful.
You know where your vehicle is. How frustrating is it when you realize there's nothing you can do?
I think that's the pinnacle of the frustration, is knowing that it's still here, but it's about to disappear.
The AirTag went offline for more than 3 weeks as a cargo ship crossed the Atlantic carrying the SUV in a container. It shows up again September 6th in the port of Antwerp, Belgium, finally traveling later that month to Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, 11,000 kilometers from Toronto.
Thanks for coming.
David Adams is president of Global Automakers of Canada, a group representing big foreign-based car companies.
Some of these routes are well known, so why not take a more focused look at those shipments?
Authorities are indeed seeking to crack down on that route to the U.A.E., with Ontario police last March intercepting 24 vehicles being sent to Dubai. Just weeks earlier, officers said they busted a criminal syndicate and recovered dozens of vehicles in containers bound for the U.A.E. and Africa. Adams wants to see more action from the federal government and the Border Services Agency to curb that trend.
We're very concerned about drugs and guns coming into the country, but the missing piece is that the export of stolen vehicles is actually financing a lot of those drugs and guns that are coming into the country. So we need to be concerned about what's exiting the country as well.
Remember seeing that SUV parked in Toronto? Here's Andrew's Yukon in the U.A.E. in a used car lot, lined up next to other North American-style GMC and Chevrolet trucks for sale. The picture sent to Andrew by a private investigator he hired. This close-up showing the vehicle identification number as proof that one is his. So, how common is this? We asked Ontario Provincial Police Detective Inspector Scott Wade, Deputy Director of an Auto Theft Task Force.
The root of starting in a rail yard or a containerized lot and then being globally exported to countries in the Middle East, Northern Africa, Europe is quite common. It's alarmingly common. Right now they're making so much money shipping cars overseas that the low risk and the high reward is just too lucrative for organized crime.
He was never able to get it back. What are the circumstances in which police can't intervene?
That would be unusual. I can say that if we know it's at a container lot or a container yard or the ports of Montreal, we'll make every effort to obtain it and get it back.
How confident are you that in 2024 you'll be able to curb this issue?
I can tell you that the efforts and the partnerships that we have are going to have an incredible impact. I'm not going to claim 2024 is going to see a dramatic decrease, but I certainly hope that.
As for Andrew's Yukon, we found one listed for sale online with striking similarities down to the same mileage. Made to Canadian specifications, it says. Available in the U.A.E. for roughly $80,000. Andrew is still fighting to get his back.
You've gone through a lot so far. It's not done yet. What message are you trying to send, or what's the goal at the end of the day here?
I think the big takeaway is it's not acceptable. One truck gone, that stinks. The second truck is a violation. You read in the news every day that there's more and more cars being stolen. You know, got to do something.
So Thomas, the police agencies involved in this, have they said anything about what happened?
Toronto police would only tell me that this is still an active investigation. You'll recall Andrew very nearly made it to his vehicle to retrieve it, only to be told that CP police were the only ones who could open that container. Canadian Pacific Kansas City Rail told us that they wouldn't do an interview about this, and they said that they don't speak about tactics to protect ongoing investigations.
I'm really left with the impression that all the police agencies are playing catch up.
Yeah, the Canada Border Services Agency provided me with an interesting number today. More than 1,800 stolen vehicles. That's how many they were able to intercept as they made their way out of Canada. So that shows that CBSA wants to be seen doing more, and also that vehicle theft remains a big issue here.
All right, Thomas, thank you.
You're welcome.
Coming up, a former pro hockey player returns to the ice more than 20 years later.
I was joking with the guys, you know, you get sent down for 2 weeks, but 2 decades is a little much.
His passionate play in our moment. That man right there is Terry Ryan, thanking the crowd at yesterday's Newfoundland Growlers game. At 47 years old, he never thought he would be back on the ice in a professional game. But amid a flu outbreak, the former NHL player was called in to fill the gap, so Terry dusted off his gear and put on his best fight. His return to pro hockey nearly 2 decades later makes our moment.
It was my birthday yesterday, being Sunday, and on Saturday, my buddies took me out. So honestly, I had a couple of beers. Zach O'Brien phoned, and he said, "You want to play tomorrow?" I said, "This is a joke. Obviously, it's my birthday." Ha ha! I hung up. I'm not kidding. And then Adam Party phoned, and I figured this is serious. I got a cab home right away. I drank water, had a sandwich or two, and tried to get some sleep.
And woke up and it was a reality. I was joking with the guys, you know, you get sent down for 2 weeks, but 2 decades is a little much. My daughter was there. She just hadn't seen me ever play pro. You know, I just wanted to go out there, and I didn't want to embarrass, man. If I'm out there and I've got my skates on, I'm not 47, I'm on that team. And I'm there to do something, to hear the ovation. I never thought I'd hear that ovation again in my life.
That's just perfect. That's perfect.
I think sometimes the moment was made for a moment like this. He says this was as special or more special than his very first NHL game, and he's grateful to everyone who made it happen. For all of us here at The National, thank you for being with us. You can watch anywhere, anytime on the free CBC News app and subscribe to The National's YouTube channel. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.